Henry VIII, King of England, from 1509 to 1547, is one of the most famous and controversial monarchs in English history. Henry's legacy, especially in terms of the English Reformation, his 6 marriages, and his role in the establishment of the Church of England, has been a subject of fascination for historians and the public alike for centuries. Henry VIII's reign, marked by personal ambition, royal power, and dramatic shifts in religious and political dynamics, remains one of the most studied periods in English history. Henry was a king who epitomized both the grandeur and the tyranny of the Tudor dynasty. His policies and actions changed England's identity and its relationship with Europe, while his personal life and character have led to a lasting, often sensationalized, legacy. Henry VIII was born on June 28, 1491, at the Palace of Placentia in Greenwich, London. He was the second son of King Henry VII and Elizabeth of York. His older brother, Prince Arthur, was initially the heir to the throne, but his untimely death in 1502 changed the course of Henry's life. As a result, Henry became the heir apparent to the throne at the age of 11. Henry's upbringing was marked by a privileged education, instilling in him an interest in music, literature, sports, and the classical world. He was groomed for kingship and initially appeared to be a moderate and more temperate monarch, with a sharp mind and a strong physical presence. Upon his father's death in 1509, Henry ascended to the throne at the age of 17. His youth and vitality were seen as an asset by the people, and he began his reign with a promise of renewal. Henry's early rule was marked by reforms in government, a focus on restoring England's glory, and the pursuit of glory on the international stage. He also sought to strengthen his position within the English court and create an image of an ideal monarch, handsome, cultured, and able to command respect and loyalty. When Henry VIII became king, England was emerging from the stability established by his father, Henry VII, following the turbulent years of the Wars of the Roses. Henry VII had carefully built a strong, centralized government and had curbed the power of the nobility. In contrast, Henry VIII's reign was marked by his desire for personal power and prestige. Early in his reign, Henry worked to strengthen royal authority, but he also encouraged the traditional Tudor practices of patronage and military action to cement his legitimacy. Henry's first years as monarch were dominated by advisors who had served under his father, such as Thomas Wolsey, who became the king's chief minister. Wolsey's rise to power was partly due to his administrative acumen, and he effectively governed on Henry's behalf, allowing the king to pursue his passions and interests. During this period, Henry began to focus on the importance of military campaigns. He continued his father's policy of asserting English power on the European continent, particularly through alliances with France and Spain. These alliances were critical in securing England's position within European politics. Henry also sought to assert England's rights to the French throne, which led to military campaigns in France. His famous military successes in the Battle of the Spurs, 1513, although short-lived, added to his reputation as a warrior king. One of the most defining moments of Henry VIII's reign was his break from the Roman Catholic Church and the establishment of the Church of England. This dramatic religious shift occurred because of Henry's personal desire for a male heir, which was not forthcoming from his first wife, Catherine of Aragon. In the early years of his marriage, Henry's relationship with Catherine, the daughter of Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain, appeared promising. But after many years of marriage and several stillbirths and miscarriages, it became clear that Catherine could not provide a male heir to secure the Tudor dynasty. In seeking an annulment of his marriage to Catherine, Henry encountered the Vatican's refusal to grant his request. Pope Clement VII under pressure from Catherine's nephew, the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, refused to annul the marriage. This led Henry to seek an alternative solution. In 1534, after a series of confrontations with the Pope and the Church, Henry declared himself the supreme head of the Church of England through the Act of Supremacy. This move effectively severed ties between England and the Roman Catholic Church, leading to the establishment of the Anglican Church, with Henry at its helm. The break with Rome had profound consequences for English society and religion. It allowed Henry to marry Anne Boleyn, whom he had been pursuing, in order to secure a male heir. His marriage to Anne in 1533 resulted in the birth of Elizabeth, later to become one of England's greatest monarchs. The English Reformation also led to widespread religious upheaval. The dissolution of monasteries, the confiscation of church property, and the suppression of Catholic practices caused significant social and religious tensions. Despite Henry's personal belief in the doctrines of the Catholic Church, his political maneuvering in religious matters transformed the English religious landscape for centuries to come. Henry VIII's marriages were central to both his reign and his historical legacy. The king married 6 times, and his marriages and the dramatic events surrounding them had a profound impact on English politics, religion, and society. These marriages were driven by Henry's desire for a male heir to secure the Tudor dynasty, as well as his personal desires and appetites. Catherine of Aragon, married 1509 to 1533. Henry's first marriage was to Catherine of Aragon, the daughter of Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain. After years of marriage without a male heir, Henry sought an annulment, which ultimately led to the break with Rome and the establishment of the Church of England. Anne Boleyn, married 1533 to 1536. Anne Boleyn, Henry's second wife, gave birth to Elizabeth, who would later become Queen Elizabeth I. However, Anne failed to provide a male heir and was ultimately executed on charges of adultery, treason, and incest. Jane Seymour, married 1536 to 1537. Jane Seymour gave Henry his long-desired male heir, Edward VI, but died shortly after childbirth. Her death left Henry deeply mournful, and she was the only one of his wives to be buried beside him. Anne of Cleves, married 1540 to 1540. This marriage was politically arranged, but it was annulled after just 6 months, as Henry claimed he was unable to consummate it due to Anne's appearance. Their marriage ended amicably, and Anne was treated with respect. Catherine Howard, married 1540 to 1542. Henry's 5th wife, Catherine Howard, was a young and attractive cousin of Anne Boleyn. She was executed for committing adultery during her marriage to Henry. Catherine Parr, married 1543 to 1547. Henry's 6th and final marriage was to Catherine Parr, who outlived him. She was a widow twice before marrying Henry, and played a significant role in Henry's later years, helping to reconcile him with his children from previous marriages. Henry's obsession with securing a male heir and his marital decisions were pivotal in shaping the course of English history. His 2 daughters, Mary and Elizabeth, would later become monarchs, but his struggles to produce a male successor caused considerable disruption to his rule. Henry VIII's foreign policy was often marked by his desire to assert England's power in Europe. Early in his reign, he formed alliances with Spain and France, but his shifting allegiances were indicative of the ever-changing political landscape in Europe. Henry's desire for military glory was demonstrated by his involvement in the Italian wars, as well as his campaigns against France and Scotland. The battle for control of France, with England often aligned with Spain or the Holy Roman Empire, occupied a significant part of Henry's reign. His military campaigns were costly, and the limited successes did not significantly alter England's position in Europe. However, his military ventures did reinforce his image as a warrior king and added to his reputation as a ruler who sought to expand and defend his kingdom's interests. Henry VIII died on January the 28th, 1547, after a reign of nearly 38 years. By the time of his death, Henry had fundamentally transformed England. The English Reformation, the creation of the Church of England, his marital and dynastic struggles, and his shifting foreign policies had altered the course of English history. His son, Edward VI, succeeded him, but only reigned for a short period, while his daughters, Mary and Elizabeth, would later define the Tudor legacy. Henry's reign left a complicated legacy. On the one hand, he established a stronger central monarchy, reformed the church, and began the creation of a more modern English state. On the other hand, his marriages and tyrannical behavior towards those who opposed him stained his reputation. Yet his reign remains one of the most impactful in English history.